Hi there, my name's Donghuap. Have you ever noticed that in pro games, junglers do a lot less ganking than in regular solo queue games? There's a lot less blood and a lot less killing in pro games than compared to solo queue games. The reason for that is because pro players are super good at tracking junglers. Even when pro players don't have vision of the enemy jungler, they still know generally where the enemy jungler is and where he's going to be. And if you know where the enemy jungler is at all times, in theory, you should pretty much never die to one of his ganks. So, how can you track the enemy jungler in the same way? First, let's understand what a jungler's job is and what a jungler does for his team. A jungler's job is essentially the same job as President Obama. As your team's Obama, your job is to help improve the economy of your team, Team America. You're supposed to help those who are in need and in disadvantaged situations. You are supposed to try and close the wealth gap between the wealthy laners and the poor laners. You're supposed to bring hope to people who want to just surrender an FF and change their losing lane into a winning one. As the team's Obama, you're going to make the big decision calls like whether or not you can do Dragon and Baron, and you have to dictate how the course of a game is going to go. You are the team's guide. You are their leader. You are the one who decides how resources are distributed. You are their president. Oh, and of course, just like Obama, anything goes wrong, it's your fucking fault. Doesn't matter what it is, it's always your fault. My lane got ganked? Fucking Obama's fault. I lost some farm under my tower? Fucking shit, Obama. They got nerfed again? Fucking brain dead Obama's fault. Jungling, Obamaing, same thing really. Now, what is the one thing that Obama did that was praised by everyone? That was the one thing that no one really gave him shit for. The one most important thing that you can do as an Obama is kill an Osama. That's right, killing Osama bin Laden was pretty much the one thing that almost everyone gave him credit for. Osama is the biggest threat to your team, so all you gotta do is find Osama. Finding the enemy jungler is just like finding Osama bin Laden. Let's start with the basics, things that pretty much everyone already knows. We know to look for Osama in one of the sand countries. The sand countries are very dangerous because they have a high amount of female ninjas. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I've watched Naruto. Just as we know there's a limited amount of places that Osama can be in, we also know that there's a limited amount of places that the enemy jungler can start at. We know the enemy jungler starts either blue buff or red buff or wraiths. What most pro players do is they always go in for invades to get vision down on the enemy jungler so that they know what buff they start. In solo queue, not everyone is here at the start of a game. And depending on the enemy jungler, it is also somewhat unnecessary a lot of times to actually go for an invade. And that is because there are a lot of things that you can do as a player to just check what buff the enemy jungler started. Look at which enemy lane showed up first. Did enemy top lane show early? Did enemy bot lane show up early? If both of them showed at the same time, then that probably means the enemy jungler started red buff. You can also click on their character to check if they used any abilities or if they lost any HP while leashing. You can also figure out what buff they started based on the enemy matchup. Is the enemy jungler a manaless champion like Rengar or Rek'Sai? Well, they probably started red. Is the enemy jungler a champion that can kill wraiths super easily like Kayn? Then he probably started wraiths. This is a super simple and super easy thing to do, and if you do not do it, you will probably lose the jungler at the most critical times of the game. The time in which the jungler is most effective is in the first 10 minutes of the game. Just like Osama, junglers thrive off the element of surprise. The first 3 minutes is usually when the first gank comes down, and in solo queue, that's also usually when first blood is taken. Losing first blood sets the tone for the entire game. Losing first blood can be a huge morale dent to your entire team. Losing first blood feels almost as bad as losing a family member on 9/11. Oh, almost. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've never lost a family member to 9/11, but I've lost first blood before, and it feels really bad. So let's say the first gank comes down and the enemy jungler is counter-ganked by your own jungler and you figured out his game and you know how to shut him down and the enemy jungler dies. So where is the enemy jungler going to be now? I mean, you don't really have any information on him right now, do you? Because he's back at base and he could technically be anywhere on the map, right? Not quite. The second way to track Osama is to follow the money or to follow the jungle camps. If you know what jungle camps the enemy jungler still hasn't taken and what jungler camps are still up, that's likely where the enemy jungler is going to appear. Now, in solo queue, not every jungler goes to the right camp at the right time. A lot of junglers make mistakes. A lot of junglers take different paths. But no matter what elo you're in, junglers will still gravitate around the side that has more camps. This is why a lot of pro players, instead of warding bushes, they like to ward the enemy jungle camps. Because if you figure out when the enemy jungler's camps are coming back up, you'll also figure out, okay, that jungle camp is coming back up, which means the enemy jungler is likely to be here within a specific time frame. A simple ward at a commonly taken camp like Wraiths or Gromp or Wolves can basically tell you when that player is going to be around that area. Here's an example of how thinking about the enemy's jungler's camps can really help you in counter ganking and figuring out where the enemy jungler is going to be. Kha'Zix and Katarina go in for a 2v2 against Ryze and Camille. They come out ahead because Camille is still level 2 and Kha'Zix is level 3. In the end, Kha'Zix barely lives with a sliver of HP and is able to come out on top with 2 kills. After this happens, instead of backing, Kha'Zix goes over and kills his Gromp. Now, if you look at the mini-map, there are actually no camps up for Kha'Zix on his top side. Wolves are gone, Gromp's gone, and Blue's gone, which means that Kha'Zix actually doesn't have a reason to go back up top lane. However, during the 2v2, he knows that the Camille does not have her red buff. And since she was level 2, it also means that she did not take anything like Wraiths or Krugs. So it's pretty much a sure thing that Camille is going to be at her topside camps next. And since Katarina just went back to base with Kha'Zix, there's no way that Camille is going to be ganking mid lane. So the only lane that is up for ganking is top lane. Even though there is no farm for Kha'Zix on his topside jungle, he is so certain that Camille will show up, he paths towards Darius anyway. Even though Darius dies, Kha'Zix is able to pick up a return kill in what would have definitely been a 1-for-0 trade. Just think about what camps are up for the enemy jungler, and that's where he will probably be. One thing that a lot of people will tell you to do is track the enemy's second buff. The enemy blue buff and red buff spawns will be put on your minimap. Jungle camps respawn every 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That's half the time of a buff. If you can track the time between the first buff spawn and the second buff spawn, you can basically track the enemy jungler's movements for the entirety of the first 10 minutes. Now, just because you can track the enemy jungler and know where he is, doesn't necessarily mean you should invade the enemy jungler. Just because you know where Osama is, doesn't necessarily mean you go right away to try and kill him. If you kill him but then feed double buffs to your mid laner, then you've just lost mid lane for your mid laner. Who cares if the enemy jungler can't gank him? He's already lost the lane. Whether or not you should invade completely depends on how the lanes are pushing. If one of your laners that you need and expect help from is pushed to his tower with 2 waves there, he cannot help you. It's not something that he should or even can do, because if he loses those 2 waves, he's also basically lost a kill worth of EXP and gold. If you want help from your laners, you gotta help them first. You don't necessarily need to kill the enemy jungler in order to completely shut him down. If you simply ward to protect your laners, get vision, and make sure that you warn and ping your laners if the enemy jungler is potentially coming to their lane, you can shut them down by simply sharing that information with your team. One of the biggest reasons that ganks fail is because the enemy jungler is there to counter gank. If you know that the enemy jungler is at a certain buff or on the other side of the map, you can simply gank one side of the map without interference. If you know the enemy jungler is currently doing his topside buff, you can easily solo dragon without interference. But all of these things are only possible if you make the effort to try and track the enemy jungler. So, in conclusion, in order to track the enemy jungler, you have to think of him as Osama. Keep track of his camps, his buffs, and his exits. Because if you don't, your team will flame you and give you drama. Call you brain dead and tell you that they fucked your mama. All because you couldn't track the enemy Osama. A poem by Barack Hussein Obama. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hunting down Osama bin Laden took a really long time, and you know what else took a long time? Finishing this video. Please support me on Patreon to make sure that I'm able to do more of these kinds of videos. You'll gain things like early access videos and polls for specific video ideas. Thank you so much to the current Patreons, Waywardssparks and MyMan81. For more videos, you can check out my YouTube channel right here. That's it, bye!